This video I'm gonna do a TDD Kata. If you don't know what TDD stands for, it stands for test-driven development. And the meaning is when you're doing some development, you're always gonna do the test first, then write some code, and you're only gonna write the necessary code to make your test pass. And finally, if you're gonna do some refactoring of your code, you're gonna do it after the test has passed. Yeah, so this is the string calculator Kata. And the first step is to create a simple string calculator with the method int add string number. The method can take 0, 1 or 2 numbers and return the sum. So I should start with a simple test case. Remember this whole thing as simple as possible, and to refactor after each passing test. I will be using the I think it's called the Osho naming convention for my test, and it goes like this. You have the method name that you're testing, the state under the test, and the expected behavior of the test. So back in Visual Studio, I've created a string calculator class. This is where my test will be. I'm gonna use a test framework called NUnit, which is my preferred test framework. Just gonna install that from the NUget. Alright. So I also have installed NCrunch. NCrunch is what NCrunch does. It is gonna test my code while I write code, and it will give me some colored dots in this left mark here. Green will indicate that the test is passing, and red if it not. If the colors are black, it's indicating that this part of code is not covered by any test. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my first test here. I'm using test cases. This is part of the NUnit, and what's good about this is that you can pass different kind of parameters to your test case, so you can have multiple test cases per test. So for this I'm gonna pass in 0 as the expected return value, and then empty string as the parameter that I'm gonna pass to my calculator. Just gonna write those parameters into expected. Okay. So I'm gonna need a calculator class. It's gonna have an add method, and it's gonna take the number I'm passing in. I'm also using a ReSharper. It's a great tool to write better code, I think. Okay, so we have our test class. Just gonna move this to another file. Okay, so I'm gonna assert that the expected value is the same as the return value from the add method. Okay, so add function is returning a void right now. I need to have it as an int. Yeah, just gonna configure NCrunch to run automatically. That. So the color dots I was talking about should appear anytime now. Yeah. And we see we have a failed test. So if I jump to the NCrunch test explorer, you can see that I have a failing test. And it's failing because it throws a system dot not implemented exception. So to make my test pass in the most simplest way, I need to return 0. Yes. Okay, so we're done with the first step. Jumping back to the Kata. The next one is the number 1. Gonna duplicate the test case. Expected value is 1, and I'm gonna pass in 1. Okay. Need to make my test pass. I'm gonna extend this code a little bit. So if the number is null or empty, I'm gonna return 0. Sorry. Else, I'm just gonna return the number as an int. Yes, we can see that our test is passing again. The next one is I can pass 2 numbers. So I'm gonna pass this one, 1 and 2, separated by a comma. Return value should be 3. Okay. So I'm gonna do this in 2 parts. The first one, I'm gonna check if the number is null or empty. Then I'm gonna return 0. Else I'm gonna how should we solve this? I think okay, I'm gonna split the number by the comma delimiter. So I'm gonna create a number array which take the number and split it with the comma. Then I'm gonna return number array using link and just parse the values in the array. Alright, so our test is passing again. So I think that was the first step in this string calculator Kata. Yes. The second one, allow the add method to handle an unknown amount of numbers. And it actually does. I can prove it with passing 3 numbers, and the return value should be 6. And we can see our test is passing. Yes. So we've done that. Allow the add method to handle new lines before numbers instead of comma. So the following input is okay. The following input is not okay. Okay, so we're not going to do this one. Yeah. So first this one. Duplicate my test. Return value should be 6 again. Jumping back to the add method. So I think the simplest way is to replace new line character with the comma. Okay, so this is passing. I'm just gonna do some refactoring I'm doing it after my test is passed. Yeah, just gonna. I think this is better to look at. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so we have the next step to change the delimiter. The beginning of a string will contain a separate line that looks like this. So you have an optional delimiter, and then you have the numbers. So this is the example. So it should take the semicolon and use that as a delimiter. Okay. So the return value of this should be 3. Okay. Just gonna write down if a statement here. I'm gonna check if the first element in the number array starts with those slashes. I think it was it that way? Yeah. If it does, we know it's an optional delimiter. So I'm gonna get delimiter from the first index. I'm just gonna remove the two first characters because I know it's the slash. Those are the slashes, and I should be left with the semicolon as the delimiter. Okay, how should we do this? I think I'm gonna say number array is gonna be. So I know my first element in this array was the delimiter, and the second one is gonna be all the numbers separated by the custom delimiter. So I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna okay. I'm gonna convert this to a character like that, so that I can split it. Yes. Alright, so my test is passing. I'm kind of happy with my code, but I'm gonna make this as a new method. Get number array default delimiter. I'm doing this so to make sure that this method, the add method, is not gonna grow into an enormous method. I think that's a good practice to do, to not have very large methods. So if you have one large method, maybe you should think about separate some of your code. Okay, I'm still not 100% happy, so just gonna refactor this a little bit. And I'm gonna say that if the number array do not start with those slashes, I'm just gonna return, else I'm gonna do the conversion. Okay, I think this is good enough. Yeah. Okay, the first line is optional. All existing scenarios should still be supported, and it does. You can see that because all my dots are green. is meaning all my tests are passing. Alright, next one. Calling add with a negative number will throw an exception. Negatives not allowed. And the negative that was passed. If there are multiple negatives, show all of them in the exception message. Okay. So I'm gonna make a new test. Add negative number. Until the test will throw an error, throw an exception. This is just gonna be a test, not a test case. Okay. So I'm gonna assert that if I pass a negative number, it's gonna throw an exception. So for example, -2 and -3. Okay. Also, I'm gonna assert the exception message. I think this is great. This is part of the NUnit 2. And the good thing about this, I can actually return the exception and assert exception later. So what was the text? The negative is not allowed. I'm gonna copy that. And it should have the negative numbers too. So -2 and -3. So that's the expected message and exception message. Okay. So I'll take this part. I want to jump back to my add function. Okay. I'm going to test if my array have any negative numbers, and if it does, I'm going to return the exception. So if any element in the array is less than 0, throw in the exception. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit. -3, -6, and no, -2, -3. Alright. So I wrote this very simple. I hard-coded the values just to make my test pass. This time I'm gonna do some refactoring because I'm not obviously happy with this, because it's only gonna work with this scenario when I'm passing exactly those values. So I need to change this part right here. If you haven't seen this one before, it's part of the .NET 4.6. It's the same as writing string.format and having those yeah, like that. Okay, number array, select, and I'm also going to join that with an empty character. Oops, this one gotta go. Okay. So I've done something wrong here. Is it like that? No. So what my test explorer is saying? True, true. Oh, okay. Yeah. So my test is passing again. I'm still not 100% happy because I can see that I'm doing a lot of parsing here from string to int 3 times over here. So I think I need to change my code a little bit. So this is gonna be the number string array. I'm gonna create a new one called number array. It's gonna be the number string array. Yep. It should make this one be alright. Yes, number array. Also, I'm gonna have this as an to array. Okay, that's better, I think. There. Also, I'm gonna have this as an a third method. So control rm, validate non-negatives. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Gonna jump back to my Kata. It says here, if you're a beginner, stop here. Continue if you finish the steps so far in less than 30 minutes. So right now we are on 23, so we're good. Numbers bigger than 1000 should be ignored, so adding 2 plus 1001 should still return 2. Okay. I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna do it right here, where the x is less than or the same as 1000. Yeah, so real simple, and it's worked fine. The next one, delimiters can be any length with the following format. Okay, I see. Okay, gonna take that one. Gonna remove the optional. So this should return 6. Okay. This is not working now. I'm gonna rewrite this one. Okay, so right now the delimiter is the 3 stars. Okay, I'm gonna replace all of no the number array, the first element. Sorry, second element. I'm gonna say it's gonna replace all instances of that delimiter with a comma. Alright. So my test is passing again. I think I'm gonna do some refactoring. You can see I have the comma multiple places, 4 places. So I'm gonna change that a bit. Control RP makes a new parameter. Okay, it's a little bit better. Yeah, I think that's good for now. Okay, the next one, allow multiple delimiters. So this is the example. I have a star, I have a percentage character. Just gonna copy that, make a new test. So this should return 6. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Okay. I need to change this one. I think I'm gonna distinct it. So this means we have a enumerable of characters. Gonna make a simple for each. And I'm gonna loop through all my characters. this one. Ah, yeah. Something that I've forgotten. So what's it saying? Input string was not in the correct format. Ah, so it throws an exception over here. Okay, yeah. The thing is, the test that has multiple stars, uh, this one is gonna look like this after my code has run. And when I split it, the array is gonna contain a lot of empty values. So I need to make sure that this array do not contains or I'm gonna remove all the empty values. Yeah. So I'm happy with that. And next one, make sure you also handle multiple delimiters with a length longer than 1 char. Okay. And we actually does that right here. I can prove it with extending this one and it still pass. So yeah, that's it. Finish. I think that was a great kata to practice your TDD development. So yeah, thank you.